job I can thank Paul Bartel for. It was a Roger Corman epic, and Paul was very much a Roger Corman success, having acted in or directed a number of his films. And Paul, was also in Munchies. Roger Corman was known for using his directors, writers, and even the office help as actors in his famously low-budget films, not only because they were cheap, Corman paid scale, but because everybody wanted those jobs so they could join the Screen Actors Guild and qualify for what were, in those days, very generous union medical insurance. In New York City, Paul had introduced me to his two best women friends, Mary Warnoff, an actress he later used in Eating Raoul, and Tina Hirsch, a film editor, and their husbands, whose names I don't remember, and by now maybe they don't either. And so Paul had us all to dinner a couple of times, and what I mostly remember was the high percentage of butter fat. I was always on a diet and usually failing. Anyway, fast forward years later, we're all in LA now, except I guess the husbands, and Tina gets a job, maybe with Paul's recommendation, to direct a knockoff Roger Corman film imitating the successful, also Roger Corman film, Gremlins, where cute little fuzzy critters are adorable unless you cross them and then they eat your foot or something. Tina had been editing Corman films, including Gremlins, and when she told him she wanted to direct, he gave her Munchies.
Munchies, starring Harvey Korman, from the creator of Little Shop of Horrors.
Tina, remembering me from Paul's butter-laden dinner parties, bless her heart, cast me opposite the massively talented Harvey Korman, no relation to Roger, from the Carol Burnett show.
Yes?
Will you marry me?
Marry you? Why, you're the scum of the ocean and the chicken of the sea.
Although he had a bad reputation for being difficult and perhaps drunk, I can't remember, he was an absolute delight to work with, and I just adored him.
Bad little piggy, then wee all the way home. Oh, honey.
Well, I'd been a better stepmother.
Oh, darling, you were a wonderful mother. You were a wonderful... No, I just want to bite of you, mother.
As usual with Roger Corman films, this one was extremely low budget, and the critter puppets were so cheap. The animation, such as it was mostly on a level where the prop guy picked up the critter doll and waved it around a little. I guess he must have worn green screen gloves or something. And when an aroused critter attacked you, the prop guy simply threw a doll at your face, and the actors made a big fuss holding the doll to their throats and screaming, "Ah!" But it was all in good fun. And I got to wear a big blonde wig and trashy outfit.
Where is it?
Butcher!
I thought she said this night manager was going places.
Harvey also wore a wig because he was doubling and playing two parts. The upshot of the whole thing was that this film never really opened. It was supposed to play in theaters, but instead it went straight to video stores. Remember Blockbuster? Where happily it was discovered by parents renting films their kids would watch, but which weren't truly scary or violent. They were non-threatening. And in this way, Munchies became a modest success, which it certainly deserved. I mean, for Harvey Korman's performance alone. And I never saw any of those people again, except for acting with Mary and Paul in Rock and Roll High School.
Your standard mouse and your standard speakers. Now back.
Today I'm interviewing Linda Marcus Smith about her experiences as an older performer. Besides other jobs, in the 1970s, she enlisted in the Army for 3 years, which left her with a pension and ongoing medical services. After other adventures, including a near-fatal car crash, Linda started doing stand-up comedy in 2014 at the age of 63. She's based in Las Vegas, but as of January 1st, 2025, she's moving to New York City.
I didn't intend to retire, but I got hit by a drunk driver in June of 1996, and I sustained brain trauma. So I have mild dementia due to brain trauma.
Right.
And you know, it's the upper right side, so it's the part that organizes things. So I can go in circles. I'm like a one-legged chicken. And I try so hard to compensate. And I found through comedy, nobody notices my deficit when I'm coming at comedy, which is creative.
Yeah.
It's the opposite of logical.
Okay.
And so I thought, well, maybe I'm funnier now than I ever was. I've always made people laugh, so I might as well give this a shot.
Had you always wanted to perform? Was that something
yes.
you did? Right.
And making people laugh is just like a superpower.
Oh, okay.
So my whole life, growing up and everything, was to make my parents laugh. I called a comedy club in Murrieta, California, Aces Comedy Club, and where I met Taylor Tomlinson. So I called that club and I said, Rocky, if you can teach me comedy, I want to live.
How long was that course?
That was like 2 hours. I had like some headliners sitting around, and it was like speed dating. I went from table to table to meet with them and told them about my life, and they gave me jokes. And then I went up on stage that night, and that's the end of it.
Wow. So you really learned on the job, so to speak.
And then I've taken courses, but that was my first
That was your introduction. One of the things I'm doing with this channel is trying to encourage older people to get into performing on whatever level, you know, because a lot of times older people have time. They've got time on their hands, and they've got a pension or Social Security or some kind of income. So they don't have to make a living at it. At least, I mean, that's the goal. But anyway, it seems like there's more interest not only among older people who maybe have wanted to perform all their lives but just never did it, and people wanting to see that. I mean, when we did that show with Joe Firestone, because that's how I met Linda, was in Joe Firestone's class, which is a Zoom class, but it ended up becoming a TV show, and which is pretty amazing.
It's so nice when seniors are not ignored.
When you came to New York, there were more shows, more opportunities.
Whenever I'd come here, people have like, oh, and put me on like one time I came here for 2 weeks and had 17 shows, which is a lot for somebody at my level.
Yeah.
You know, barely a feature. You know, I might have featured 5-6 times in my life.
Yeah.
So I'm not an open micer. I get guest spots on real shows, but you know, to come to New York and be able to be on real shows, that's quite a deal. So, but the reason I'm moving here is because Gladys said if I move here, she'll rotate me as a host.
Oh, nice.
And I think so much of Gladys that she says you've gotten so good. I have pensions, but the thing is that they're not a lot. Half of it's going to be my rent.
Right.
So that's a tight squeeze.
Well, who knows? You know, I mean, New York is a place with a lot of opportunities. I mean, it's always been like that, at least since I came here when I was 18.
Where did you come from?
DC. I more or less grew up in DC and came here to go to acting school when I was 18. I had already done a season of summer stock in DC and actually lost my virginity in a green room.
I'm green with envy.
Oh yeah. So somehow it seemed like it was time to leave. Is there anything else you'd like to add about performing or stand-up or anything? Okay.
I interview to promote comedians. I do comedy to make people forget their pain, to help facilitate healing for veterans, because I believe that they're bearing so much because they're afraid to be in this moment. They're not even okay with those moments.
Our thank you to Linda for her honesty and for telling us her story. Thank you, Linda.